On a mountain road, a racer called a driver of a pickup truck filled with cabbages. The driver's name was Suwa, and the car containing the cabbages was Bank. Bank and two of his friends were driving the car that was carrying the cabbages. The three of them raced to a place. At first, Bank was in third position. He then passed the second car. At that moment, Bank noticed that the car in the third position exploded suddenly. Bank, who saw this, felt that it was wrong. Then Bank called his friend Suwa. He asked Suwa to come to him for help. Without further ado, Suwa immediately rushed to Bank's location. Suwa turned out to be at the top. He then descended towards Bank. With his drift skills, Suwa easily passed the winding road down. Meanwhile, Bank was worried about himself. He tried to race the car in front of him, but Bank accidentally went off the track and crashed into a local shop. Fortunately, Bank was not hurt. He then continued his journey and still tried to race the car in front of him. Again, when Bank managed to beat the car in front of him, unfortunately the car also exploded, which made Bank even more afraid. Then Bank tried to leave the road, but shortly after he left his friend's exploding car, Bank saw a woman who was about to shoot his car. Bank tried to avoid the woman, but unfortunately, the woman managed to shoot Bank's car into the ravine. Unlike the previous two cars that exploded, Bank's car was only made to fall to make it look like an accident. Soon a transport truck picked up Bank's car to leave no trace. Suwa, who was driving fast, did not feel calm. He thought about Bank, especially when Suwa found out that the GPS in Bank's car was disconnected at a location where Bank had an accident. Until Suwa stopped by the side of the road and saw Bank, who was lifeless and full of wounds. Suwa immediately ran to Bank and cried because he was sad to lose Bank. He wondered about the perpetrator of the murder while closing Bank's eyes and hugging him. One day in a place, there was a practice event for a race that would be held next week. The event was attended by the ex-train riders. In addition, there was a DJ and the audience who enlivened the event in front of the stage. On the racetrack was the first rider named Jazz, who was nicknamed as the Three-Wheeled Thunder. The second rider, Jeans the Green Inferno. The third rider was Nay, who was the Flaming Devil. The last rider was Claw, the Agile and Brave One. The four ex-train drivers drove a variety of vehicles, including cars, trikes, and three-wheeled motorcycles. They both had reliable driving skills. Even at the event, they showed off their skills one by one. As they were speeding away, there was a BMW car driven by someone called Boss Crit by the host. After the riders and Boss Crit stopped driving, Suwa called Boss Crit. It was revealed that Suwa and Bank were Boss Crit's men. Suwa then said that Bank was dead, and their enemies had taken Boss Crit's belongings. Hearing the news, Crit was annoyed with his enemy's actions. He then wanted to go to Pattaya. The ex-train riders felt something was wrong with him, but they didn't know what was going on. Crit arrived in Pattaya. He then met a man and reported that one of their enemies had stolen their goods and finished off the cabbage racing crew. The man, who seemed to be more powerful than Crit, was upset to hear the bad news. That man was the real boss named Ken. Fortunately, one of Crit's friends named Joe defended Crit. Joe said that Crit had followed the rules. Crit's friend also felt that the bad thing happened accidentally. They didn't even know who the culprit was. Therefore, Ken told Crit and Joe to find out the real culprit who made them suffer losses. Later that evening, Fun watched a video about the 2022 MMA Championship. The video mentioned that the winner would get 1 million baht. Fun felt uneasy knowing that her money was getting less and less. Fun was anxious because she wanted to participate in the boxing match, but she felt that her preparation was still lacking. On the other hand, in Pattaya, Ken and Joe were at the headquarters. The boss, Ken, suspected that Crit had something to do with the death of the cabbage racing crew who carried his goods. Hearing that, Joe, who was an old friend of Crit, tried to convince Ken that Crit was not a greedy person. But Ken still thought that Crit played a role behind the losses. Ken even said that a person will change when it comes to money. Hearing his boss's words, Joe then thought that bad things could happen to good people. Then Joe asked about Ken's plan to catch the culprit. Ken then said that he would prepare Yuna, a skillful female boxer, in a boxing match. Ken would like to hold the boxing match in Pattaya next month with a prize of 1 million baht. At first, Joe was confused how Ken could find the culprit with the boxing match. Ken then explained that Joe was tasked with keeping an eye on the VIP guests. Meanwhile, the police would focus on the VIP guests. That was when the drugs would be delivered. Long story short, the day of the race between extreme riders arrived. In the morning, Claw woke up because of his nightmare. When he came down from his room, Claw saw Sua there. He said that he had bad news. Claw, who heard that, felt uneasy. Then Claw, Sua, and the other extreme riders rushed to Crit's room. When they arrived in front of Crit, Crit firmly showed the bank car dashboard camera footage that Sua had managed to get. In the video footage, a woman was seen shooting at the bank car. They also saw how Bank's car was spinning in the air until his car fell into a ravine. They were surprised how Bank died with full wounds and was ignored. There was also a tattooed man who mocked Bank's death. The extreme riders felt sad to see their friend dead. They promised to finish off the culprit who killed Bank. But Crit, who knew that they were upset, then tried to calm their emotions. Crit said that they should focus on the race event only. Meanwhile, the case of Bank's death would be the next priority. In the evening, the extreme riders arrived at the race location, but they didn't see Claude there. Then the extreme riders got on their own vehicles. Soon Claw rode his trail bike bravely, until finally Claude entered the race arena in an unusual way by flying on his motorbike. The audience was then amazed to see Claw's very talented driving skills. Crit and Sua said that Claw could replace Bank's position because his drift skills were also worth thumbs up. It was known that Bank was a very reliable extreme rider and managed to occupy the top position. Crit, who knew that Claw was also as reliable as Bank, Crit then told Sua to prepare Claw and his team for the upcoming mission. At Fun's place, she was practicing boxing with her friend Can. Fun tried hard to do punches and kicks, but apparently Fun felt tired after a while of practicing. Seeing that, Can, who was a jiu-jitsu fighter, tried to convince Fun whether Fun still wanted to take part in the boxing competition with her abilities. When Fun started to doubt, she remembered the words of the doctor who treated her mother, who said that her mother's condition was going worse. They had to wait for a heart transplant for Fun's mother, but the cost for all of that was very expensive. So, Fun realized that she had to successfully fight a female boxer named Yuna in order to get the money for Fun's mother's treatment. Fun then scolded Can, who tried to instigate her not to join the competition. Can then scolded Fun because she was actually worried about Fun, but Fun still stubbornly wanted to join MMA. She then told Can that she had to win the MMA because she needed money for her mother who was seriously ill. Their conversation was overheard by Fun's mother. It appeared that Fun's mother was also worried about her daughter. While Claw and his girlfriend were praying at the temple, Claw prayed longer than usual. Claw said that he prayed for his mother's health. Claw's girlfriend named Pat then said that Claw should go home and see his mother. But Claw told her about his past, which turned out that Claw's mother was angry and didn't want to talk to him because his father had died in an accident due to wild racing like the race that Claw did. Then Fun had to learn boxing to continue the gymnasium founded by Claw's father. This made Claw's mother angry with him. Pat then convinced Claw to believe in himself to be able to face his mother because the past could not be fixed. So, Claw had to see his mother with severe heart disease. Hearing that, Claw thanked Pat because she made his heart calm. Then Claw returned to the headquarters where Crit and Sua were waiting for him. Sua asked Crit if he had found any clues about Bank's killer, but Crit didn't find any clues yet. In Pattaya, Ken secretly ordered other men to monitor the movements of Crit and Joe. Ken was still suspicious of Crit and Joe. Although his men said that they both looked clean from Bank murders, Ken, who had suspected the two people from the start, was still afraid that one of them was a traitor. At Crit's place, he asked Sua to accompany him to Pattaya for the press conference to sign the contract for the MMA match between Yuna and Fun. The next day, Crit arrived in Pattaya and he attended the press conference. Fun then arrived along with Can. Ken then approached Fun and said that Yuna was eager to meet Fun. As Yuna came from the entrance, Fun remembered that they had fought in a Muay Thai match. At that time, Yuna lost to Fun, who did have Muay Thai basics. Since then, Yuna practiced hard until she became an MMA champion. Fun saw Yuna, who was full of anger in her eyes. But Fun did not want to be provoked by emotions just because of Yuna's gaze. After the event, Fun immediately practiced even harder. She also became more excited to win the MMA. Day after day, Fun passed by practicing such as running, hitting, and also learning about Yuna's deadly techniques. Until one afternoon, Fun, who was jogging, saw Claw Kane with his girlfriend named Pat. Fun was surprised to see Claw, who finally returned to Pattaya. In the evening, they ate together at a restaurant on the beach. While Fun was eating, someone called her. Fun then received the call, which turned out to be from Joe. Fun looked nervous as she talked to him, but Fun didn't tell anyone about their conversation. Then they went back to Claw's house. At first, Claw was afraid to meet his mother, but Fun and Pat were able to convince Claw to meet his mother. When they were about to enter the house, they saw Claw's mother at the door. Claw then greeted his mother, but his mother suddenly went straight into the house and didn't want to talk to Claw. Seeing Claw, who was sadly waiting for his mother at the door, made Fun sad. She then approached Claw and hugged him. At the club, Crit approached Ken and Joe, who had arrived first. Ken then said that Joe would deliver the goods with his men. Meanwhile, Ken told Crit to focus on finding the missing goods. At first, Crit was surprised because he felt disregarded by Ken and Joe. But when Crit felt disappointed, Swa, who was secretly following Joe's men, sent a photo to him. The photo was of Joe's men selling drugs to the public casually. Seeing that, Crit then realized that there was something wrong with Joe and his men. Crit then firmly agreed to the job given by Ken. The next morning, Crit invited Claw, Jeans, Jazz, and Nay to have a meeting. Crit explained that the X-Treen riders would exchange goods in a place as well as revenge for the bank's killer. Suwa then explained their task, which was that Nay and Suwa would go to Point Ad to seize the illegal drugs carried by Joe, which were put in a sandbag, and then transport them into a container. Then they would deliver the goods when Yuna's match was held. Meanwhile, Claw, Jazz, and Jeans waited at Point B to retrieve the money brought by Joe's right-hand man named Sack. They were all getting excited to carry out their new mission. They were sure they would get through it. At Joe's place, it turned out that Joe was also having a meeting with his men. Joe firmly told his men not to fail the drug retrieval mission at the harbor. In addition, Joe also gave weapons to his men to kill the X-Treen riders. Two women, Yuna and Fun, who would fight in the boxing match, were both practicing seriously. Fun then practiced enthusiastically, accompanied by Can. While practicing boxing, Can warned Fun not to take Yuna lightly, because Yuna was not the same person as when Fun defeated her in the Muay Thai match. Yuna was very professional, and Can didn't allow Fun to get close to Yuna. Fun had to pay attention to every move Yuna made. Hearing that, Fun felt very exciting. Meanwhile, at Crit's place, Claw and his friends prepared their car to carry out the mission. But when Claw finished preparing his car, he got a call that his mother was hospitalized. Hearing that, Claw immediately went to the hospital with Pat. When they arrived at the hospital, Can took them to Claw's mother. Can said that Claw's mother asked Claw since she woke up. Soon, Claw met his mother, who lay weak. He said that he really loved his mother. It seemed that Claw's mother wanted to meet her son. Fun, who saw Claw's mother and Claw getting along, became happy. Fun then invited Claw to talk about their mother's health. After Claw visited his mother, Claw returned to Crit's place. He got paid for the mission to be carried out. Crit deliberately gave the money first so that Claw could pay the bill for his mother's treatment at the hospital. Then Claw told Pat to send the money to Fun. Claw also told Pat that he would do a mission in Pattaya. The day of the MMA 2022 match finally came. Fun prepared to do the match. Likewise, Claw prepared to carry out his mission. At the harbor, Nay and Suwa awaited Joe's men to arrive to make a transaction with a drug buyer. Soon several cars arrived at the harbor. They were Joe's men, one of whom was named Sack. In addition, there were cars from business partners who also came. The buyer checked the goods from Joe. Then they gave the money to Sack. They also made sure the container filled with drugs was placed in a safe place. After they were sure that the container was safe, they left the harbor one by one. On the other side, Nay and Suwa disguised themselves as harbor officials. They moved the container of drugs to their truck. After they were done, Shua contacted Claw, Jazz, and Jeans and told them that Joe's men were heading to Point B. This was a sign that they had to get ready to take the money from Sack. Claw, who was a little nervous because he was thinking about his mother, finally refocused after Stua told him to get ready. It turned out that Claw and Jeans were in a racing car that was put into a truck that was driven by Jazz. Claw then drove the car backwards to get out of the truck. With his driving skills, Claw was able to quickly get to Sack's car. Meanwhile, Jeans was assigned to shoot at Sack's car and kill him as well. When they were close to the target car, Jeans then shot at the car brutally. Sack and his friend were shocked because they didn't expect Claw to follow them. Sack tried to shoot at Claw's car. Luckily, Jeans paralyzed them first and killed Sack. With his drift skills, Claw easily killed Sack and his friend. After they confirmed that the two were dead, Claw and Jeans immediately took the money in the trunk and immediately returned to the truck. Before leaving, they also blew up Sack's car. In the evening after they managed to take the money from Sack, they returned to Sua's place. Then Sua reported that the mission had succeeded to Crit, who was at the MMA match. Crit, who knew that the mission was successful, then told Sua to give 1 million baht to Claw. Sua then gave the money to Claw. They then went to Yuna and Fun's location to fight, except Claw didn't come because he wanted to see his mother. Soon the boxing match began. At the same time, Sua, May, Jeans, and Jazz arrived there. They split up to protect Crit from afar. Sua, who was watching from above, saw a sniper woman who was about to kill Ken. Sua tried to kill the woman, but unfortunately, in the duel Sua lost because the woman strangled him with a rope. On the other hand, Yuna was called to head to the ring arena, as well as Fun, who walked towards the ring arena. In the first round, Fun tried to attack Yuna, but Yuna was stronger than Fun. As a result, Yuna almost made Fun powerless. The second round, Yuna pulled out her moves, but again Yuna slammed Fun's body and locked it up. Before the third round began, Fun and Yuna took a break. Kan told Fun not to get into a fistfight with Yuna. Kan also suggested that Fun should be more aware of Yuna's movements, so that Fun could dodge or fight her first. As Fun hesitated whether she should win or lose as instructed by Joe, Claw arrived. Claw then told her that their money was enough for their mother's treatment. Therefore, Claw told Fun to do her best and to not think about anything. Hearing that, Fun was immediately re-energized to continue the match. The third round started, and Fun attacked Yuna first. Fun was in no hurry, but she attacked Yuna many times, but Yuna almost defeated Fun by locking her up. Thankfully, Fun was able to escape from Yuna's lock. Fun then remembered when she practiced with her father. This made Fun even more ambitious. Fun then beat Yuna when Yuna fell. Then Fun did a kicking and flying motion so that Yuna fell and was knocked out. Finally, Fun was declared as the winner. Joe, who saw Fun disobeying his orders, was annoyed. At the same time, the sniper woman was about to shoot Ken. But suddenly someone blocked her from behind so that her shot was off. That person was Sua, who was still alive. He then beat the woman. On the other hand, the gunshot made Crit and Ken realize that there was a shooter who wanted to kill Ken. But it was Joe who stupidly pointed a gun at the two of them. Ken finally knew that Joe was a greedy traitor. Claw, who saw Joe, then approached him. Meanwhile, Shua managed to knock the sniper into the ring. This made the audience panic. The woman tried to shoot Ken, but luckily Sua managed to block her, so the shot missed. Claw, who saw Joe pointing a gun at Ken and Crit, then went after Joe. Seeing that, Joe immediately fled in his car. Claw was fortunately able to catch up with Joe. The two of them were speeding on a road full of other vehicles. Until at a roundabout, Claw managed to block Joe, who was about to run further. They faced each other, but Claw forgot that Joe had a gun. So, Joe shot at Claw, who was in front of him. Claw, who didn't have any weapons, finally chose to drive his car in reverse. This made Joe even more eager to kill Claw. With his skills, Claw managed to avoid the car behind him. However, sadly, Claw, who was getting cornered, fell off the bridge so that his car crashed, as well as Joe, who fell with the car upside down and Claw's car on top of it. The accident left Joe dead on the spot. Meanwhile, Claw was seriously injured and bleeding. After the accident, one day Fun, Pat, and Can took Fun's mother for a walk around the hospital. Fun's mom had gotten a heart donor. Fun then told her about Claw, who had died in the accident. Claw was operated on, but he didn't survive. Hearing the story, Fun's mother was very sad. Even more when Fun said that Claw's heart will now forever be with his mother, because it turned out that the person who donated his heart was her own son, Claw. Then Ken, who was on a business trip, called Crit. He thanked Crit for saving him. But Ken was still curious about where the cash and containers of drugs went. He asked Crit, but Crit just kept quiet and ignored Ken. Even though it was Crit who took the money to take revenge on Ken, who didn't trust Crit's work performance.